Hey guys, Ben Hart here from Natural Music. Let's talk about playing the bass guitar on a gospel song today. So let's use, we can use I'll Fly Away in the key of G, and this is going to work on any 4/4 time song in the key of G. Let's talk about some ideas on transitioning from G to C. Now, you need to know your major scale. So if you don't know that, G, and then A, B, C, D, E, and then F sharp, G, all right? Then it starts over, G, A, and we're just going on to the next octave. So one thing you can do is, let's go from G to C at the very beginning. So some glad morning when this life is o'er, all right? So there's the traditional way of just following the scale, go boom. You know, so I'm going some glad, and I'm just alternating back and forth from G and D. And I hit that G twice, then A, and then B, and then C. It's just going up the scale. 1, 2, 3, and that gets you to C. So I've pretty much just followed scale licks for years when I first started to play, and we called them walking to the next chord. So I want to talk about how maybe to switch that up, because a lot of you that have been playing for a little while, that's the general way to do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great way to do it. But let's talk about adding maybe something a little different. So if the other instruments are not playing that, so if the left hand in the piano or the guitar really low is playing that, it's best to stay with them. But if they're just changing chords and you're just playing that walk as a passing note, you can play a chordal lick there. So let's talk about, we're on a G chord, we're going to C. So before we hit C, we're still on a G. Now lots of times before a C chord, instruments can and will play a G7. So it's like, oh, let's do the beginning again. Some glad morning when this life is o'er. So there's a, it doesn't sound real good on a bass, but you can, because it's so low, it sounds like a little kid pounding on the piano. There's a G7, and then fly would be C. So what we're going to do is, we don't want to play harmony there because it's so low and it gets muddy on a bass, and that's just not what we're doing. But we can play with the notes in that chord. So let's find out what makes up a G7 chord. So here's a G, all right? And then if you play other instruments, you know, like on the piano, a G, B, and then a D note make up a G chord. So you know you can play any of those notes as just kind of passing walk notes. And then here's another G there, so. All right? So you could play that. 1, 2, 3, 4, a measure before you get to that. So, let's see, keep on the verse. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll. See, I just bum, 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 bum. Or you could play it backwards. Okay, so that one's okay. Let's talk about something a little different. We're going to add that flat 7 in there, which is an F note, because I said lots of times before you go to a C, you can play a G7. So let's play within a G7, add a 4th note to it. So we got 1, 2, and 3 of the chord, which is your major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 again. If you don't understand that, just hang with me. I'm going to tell you the notes. Know your major scales though. G, B, and D, and then the flat 7 you would add to play a G7 an F note. And here's the 7th in the scale, but we flattened it, and that's what we call a G7. So an F note to G. So we got 3rd fret, 2nd fret A string, 5th fret A string, D string, the 2nd string right here, I guess that would be 2nd, yeah, 2nd string, F, and then G again. So you got all those notes to play with. And then you could start it over again, you know. Not that note, but okay, so here's something that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play within those notes, and I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna play a measure worth of licks. So I'm gonna start with the F and slide into the G all in one quarter note there. So I'm gonna make it like I'm just hitting a G, but I'm gonna slide into it. G, then I'm gonna go F, then I'm gonna go D, and then I'm going to go B, and then that's a whole measure. So, and then we're to C. All right, so here we go. Let's try that. So, some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away. All right, so same way on the chorus. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. Okay. Don't do that right there. Just a little extra. So that is a different way to get from a G to a C chord, and this will work in any key. If you're playing an A flat, move everything up a half step, you know, out. And go in a D flat. Same way. Okay, let's use like B flat, jump a little more. So some, see, gotta find the key. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away. All right, so you can play around within that chord. Remember, don't overdo licks. Do them when you have room for them. That's such a common mistake that bass players make in the beginning. But there's a little option getting from G to C, or from what I call the one chord in the scale to the C chord. So in A flat, it would be like A flat going to D flat, or B flat is B flat going to E flat, or C, it would be C going to F. So there's just a little lick lesson on the bass. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you at the next one.